Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is Monday, the 11th of August, 2025. Our Independence Day is nearing. So is the passion of the people in Pakistan, and so are our badges that are here as well to represent our national day. Our independence. It is extremely important to us. But of course, the stories will reverberate other things that are happening across the world. So without further ado, this is the lineup for today. We'll begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the former RSS insider Yashwant Shinde's explosive revelations on RSS, the BJP, and the terrorist attacks in India. We will turn the spotlight on a chilling revelation from inside one of India's most powerful machines, the Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. Now, a former RSS insider has alleged that the RSS, the BJP, the Vishwa Hindu Prashad and the Bajrang Dal planned and executed bombings between 2004 and 2008 not to defend the nation, but to inflame communal hatred and cling to political power. We will link these claims to documented cases in Nanded, in Melagaon, in Ajmer Sharif and the Samjhota Express incident. And we will ask why the world still refuses to call RSS what it is, an extremist organization. This is going to be our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns what is happening in Gaza in the Middle East. Today is day 674 of all the carnage that is happening, and now the carnage includes the killing of 5 journalists, intentional killing of 5 journalists. That includes one very renowned journalist, Anas Al-Sharif, who was working for Al Jazeera, 28-year-old, who was working vehemently and highlighting what the reality of the situation was. He was deliberately killed because he was doing exactly that, and this is what Israel does not want, for people to know what is happening in Israel. Of course, the plan to occupy Gaza still goes on also, but now there are different versions of it on how Israel wants to go about it and what it wants to do. The world is slowly and steadily waking up to realities and is recognizing the Palestinian state, Australia being the latest country that has now said that it's going to formally recognize the Palestinian state, and it adds its name to the many different countries from France to other important nations that have now said that starting from September they will also formally recognize the Palestinian state. This and more will be discussed in our second story. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Russia-Ukraine feud, conflict that has been going on since years now. Now, what is very interesting in all of this is that in this coming Friday in Alaska, there is going to be a very important meeting between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. Now, a lot of people have pinned a lot of hopes on that. A lot of people are not hoping that much is going to happen. But Zelensky, for the moment, is not part of this meeting, and that is why the EU is perturbed, and so is Zelensky, and he's putting pressure on all the different EU countries so that he could be part of that meeting. Whether he will be or not is another thing altogether, but the outcome of the meeting is what everybody's eyes are looking forward to. Next, we are going to talk about the IAEA deputy chief who is going to go to Iran, who has arrived, if I'm not wrong, in Iran by the time we are doing this show. Now, this has been announced by India's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, who said that this important personality was coming to Iran, and this will be the first visit by a senior official from the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, since Iran suspended cooperation with this agency. What will it lead to? What will happen? What will be the eventualities of that is what we will try to understand. Finally, we're going to talk about a 6.1 magnitude earthquake that has hit western Turkiye. Although thank God there haven't been many casualties apart from one man who was 81 years old, but there have been many who have been injured in it. And of course, from Pakistan there have been a lot of messages of sympathies, including that from our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab as far as this dastardly earthquake is concerned. Our hopes, our prayers go with the people who've been affected by this earthquake in western Turkey. This is the lineup for today. Let's begin with our show, and our first segment on the RSS India. It's malicious designs that are now slowly and steadily being made more apparent. But what's very interesting is now that people from within India, from within these organizations, are highlighting the reality of what India has been up to. The latest being Yashwant Shinde, whose revelations on what happened between 2004, 2008, and all the different important bombings that happened in that time that were extremely important from a political point of view and from a humanitarian point of view, had all the backings of the BJP, the RSS, the Vishwa Hindu Prashad, and the Bajrang Dal. We've been joined by two important guests to discuss this in more detail. Let me introduce them to you one by one. On my very right is Dr. Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti. She's a foreign affairs analyst. Dr. Saiba, pleasure to have you always in our show. Our second is another regular and dear colleague, Farhan Bokhari Sahab, senior analyst. Thank you very much, Farhan Bokhari Sahab, to have joined us. We'll begin with you, Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti Saiba, and I'd like to understand Yashwant Shinde's testimony that comes as a revelation but not as a surprise. How does it expose the RSS, the BJP, the Vishwa Hindu Prashad, and the Bajrang Dal's alleged role in orchestrating these mass casualty bombings between 2004 and 2008 for political gain, and how much has that affected all that has ensued afterwards?
This is something we should understand, and that is there is a strong ideology of that hyper nationalism behind all this thing, the Hindutva, the saffronization of the whole Indian, unfortunately, the democratic structure of India. It's not there in a very solid way. They are talking about that Hindutva, the saffron policy that is evident in their all type of decisions. There is a nexus between this BJP and then RSS, and obviously BJP being a political aspect of the RSS, they are basically practicing its whole ideology, and how they are involved in all type of, outside of the India, they are involved in, all type of terrorism, targeting their minorities, Sikhs and all that, and then they are targeting their own minorities inside the India. So now this is clear to the whole world that India is basically not the victim. Basically, they are the perpetrator of the terrorist activities, and now this is something that is making India's credibility way weak in the international forum, where they are talking about their own scenario where they feel that they are the victim and they are the target of the terrorist activity, although they have there are sufficient evidences that says that this is state sponsored terrorism, and the government of BJP, they are involved in it, and they have the greater agenda to accomplish, and that is that Mahabharata, and this is the reason that they are targeting their own community, minorities, and they are targeting, and they are even targeting their neighborhood states, their involvement in the Nepal, their involvement in the Bhutan, their involvement in the Maldives, and
in Bangladesh.
And Bangladesh. And I think that Pakistan is the only state that is in a very brave manner is countering all the type of terrorist activities coming from the India directly or indirectly. So I think the world knows very clear about it that India is not the victim, rather they are the perpetrator, initiator of the terrorist activities, and they have the, unfortunately, they have that Nazism, the strong ideology behind it, and that ideology says it's okay to have a nationalist ideology, but hyper nationalism is something you think that only you are correct and the other have got no right to live. So this is dangerous. So at the cost of their own minorities, they are working on their own Hindutva ideology,
but that is
dangerous.
I agree with you, and that is a complete emulation, if not completely, then at least in majority of what Israel is doing, and its ideology as well of greater Israel. Farhan Ali Bokhari Sahab, he says, I'm talking of Yashwant Shinde, he says that a senior RSS leader known by Indresh Kumar allegedly led a cell that trained operatives in making bombs and planned attacks on Muslim gatherings and even Pakistani civilian targets. Now, what does this reveal about the the state complicity as far as this extremist violence is concerned?
It's not exactly or entirely surprising in the sense that this is a trend which many people have suspected for a very long time. After all, Narendra Modi's rise as Prime Minister in 2014, his victory, and prior to that, for more than a decade, the BJP's rise and the values they represented said much about the direction that India was taking, and then along the line there have been some very ridiculous other revelations, other claims as well, some of them totally hilarious. For example, someone, I think it was someone from connected to BJP who claimed some years ago that the first spaceship in the history of the world was in fact built by an Indian. Exactly where and when remains entirely unclear. So this is not necessarily surprising that we are seeing these revelations today. I think what has happened is that Mr. Modi's stars are really have really locked him in a bad corner.
One after the other, we are hearing of revelations, we are hearing of misrepresentations, we are hearing of statements that are based on complete falsehood, including that by the Indian Air Chief. I mean,
Well,
for one.
Yeah, precisely. And on the Air Chief's statement, let me say for the record, many other people have observed this too. He's coming out with this statement more than 3 months later.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this
So
is again,
then-
again and without any proof whatsoever. But the fact is, that if we kind of stick to it, that India, that has always used the Pakistan card whenever anything has happened in their country, now need to really, under the pressure of all that is coming out, look inwards and identify those factors that have been the cause of all this destruction over the decades. This is what needs to be done, but it will never be done. This is what I'm telling you, Farhan.
Well,
Bokhari
it
as well.
won't be done under Narendra Modi. I'm absolutely certain of that. I think the man is locked in a corner. I think he's got blinkers, huge big blinkers around his eyes. I don't think he's going
So
to
has
accept
Ajit
the
Doval,
light.
for that matter, to be very frank.
Well, yeah, and so it'll take a post-Modi era to even begin to perhaps look around to begin to look around if there's any ray of hope. Today, the opposition leader Rahul Gandhi, his sister were arrested very controversially. So India has moved in a completely different direction from what its founding fathers had foreseen.
But now even
many
India is
decades
saying
ago.
that whatever the founding fathers, I mean, they are changing the complete perspective of what India stood for, and now India is Hindustan. India is no longer India, the so-called pluralistic or democratic India. I think those values are no longer visible anywhere possible. I will come.
Just one point.
Yeah.
Earlier on, Dr. Bhatti mentioned all the malicious activities done in different countries around India. Let's not forget a very long civil war in Sri Lanka.
Yes.
Which was primarily directed from Indian territory, Pakistan, and what's happened in Pakistan, the continuation, escalation of terrorism in Pakistan, attempts by the Indians under different eras to try to corner us from
And
Afghanistan.
we should also put it on record, it was because of Pakistan's assistance to Sri Lanka that they finally got rid of these extremist elements. And Sri Lanka is always to this day thankful to us for that.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
All right, we have another guest who's also joined us, Dr. Jamil Khan, former ambassador and foreign affairs analyst. Thank you very much, Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab. You have been waiting very patiently. What happens in 2006 is a bomb blast in Nanded. Now, this happens at the home of RSS activists in Maharashtra. 2 RSS workers are killed while making bombs. Now these devices match those that were used in mosque attacks in Barbhani and Purna, and thus there was a direct forensic link between these bombs and the manufacturers, the Hindutva operatives and anti-Muslim terror. How does this also expose the network of the Hindutva terror operatives that were working and continue to work until under political protection?
In fact, we have to go back to the history. In 1925, once RSS was formed, there was a complete ideology. And then they started developing that. And India, definitely, to start with, they were able to project themselves, and to a great extent, they were. In a secular country, they were tolerant society. But then RSS never stopped its working in the ranks and file. And then from RSS, all other wings, it just started taking birth from there. And those all wings, whether it's the Bajrang Singh or other 2 wings, they all are basically militant wings in a different names. Bajrang Singh is declared militant wing. And what I'm saying is it's well documented. In fact, whatever we can discuss here, the Indians can say that it could be biased from the Pakistani side. But what about the United States? United States International Commission for the Religious Freedom consistently they have been mentioning about the RSS involvement, and RSS have been declared by the State Department of the United States that it's extremist organization. It's involved in so many violence activities. And then India could get away with, like it got away from the Human Rights Commissioner's report, in which Kashmir was mentioned and everything was documented. And then accordingly, the other reports, the International Amnesty report. So all these documents, what I'm just mentioning, is basically are the international evidence available against India. And I personally feel now is the right time that that should be taken up with reference to all what I'm just mentioning about it. Like this whistleblower, Mr. Yaswant Sindhi, who has now exposed, and he said that he had even gone to the Supreme Court of India, and Supreme Court of India dismissed his petition, what he wanted to just say. The investigators also had put it aside, and his conscience all of a sudden, he thought that he should raise this point, and he should be able to let the world know. But then so many points, what Mr. Yashwant Sindhi has mentioned in his statement, public statement, has already been documented in some form or the other. So the connecting the dots and connecting these links, and then connecting it with the transnational terrorism which India has been conducting with, which our Chief of the Army Staff, Field Marshal Asif Munir, he himself has mentioned just day before yesterday, while addressing the community there after meeting the CENTCOM commander and the farewell the dinner of the CENTCOM commander, incoming commander was also there. So he has mentioned that very clearly. So basically what needs to be done is that we should now engage with those countries, and we should be able to cover all the dimensions, like the traditional diplomacy, public diplomacy, legal diplomacy, and then all our missions. The way the momentum now has been gained, that momentum has to be translated to the level of the missions or the embassies, where they can synthesize the respective countries, the host countries where they are located. One. And second is, it should also be mentioned through the public diplomacy seminar, symposium, universities. I would go to the extent, which is very easy way, because these are not the ordinary allegations. These are rather proven facts, not even the allegations, what Mr. Yaswant Sindhi has mentioned. So those are only to be linked, and it could even be made the research papers in various universities, so that India is fully exposed with evidence what is happening around. We all already know it, and we've been discussing it. We've been documenting it. Our document of 151 pages, which we had submitted to the United Nations, also contains all this. But then more important is what I've just mentioned, the evidence of the international nature. And this religious freedom, International Religious Freedom for Minorities Commission, every year they are issuing the reports. And in each report, they are mentioning about the RSS, about Vata, the ideology.
This is the point I'm going to take from this, our discussion with you. And I'm going to ask this question to Dr. Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti. Dr. Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti, as Yashwant Sindhi has talked about incidents that happened between 2004, 2008. In 2007, there are two incidents. The first is Samjhauta Express bombing in February of 2007. The second is the Ajmer Sharif Dargah blast that happens in October that year. In 2008, we have the Melagaon blasts. Now, as Jamil Khan Sahab also pointed out, that a report comes out every year from the US, and that highlights what the RSS is up to. Pakistan has given a report to the UN as well that highlights us as well. Why has accountability been elusive when it comes to the RSS and its machinations?
Well, you raised a very important concern, and we have to understand another thing, and that is why we are not raising, or the world is not raising concern in FATF, because Pakistan, they have been targeting Pakistan unconditionally about it since so many years. So we should, provide all the data, the dossier to the FATF, and and we should ask them that they should take the accountability from the India on this basis, that you are involved in the state-sponsored terrorism. And the simple terrorism is something, or there is a small group of people and they are working on their own agendas. But state-sponsored is something else. So there are multiple organizations working under the Indian government, and they are continuously funding it. And this funding is not on, they are providing not only to the people inside of the India, but rather the outside of the India. They are providing all type of funding, assistance, and we have seen that Disinfolab, how they are providing the misinformation to the people, and how they are running so many websites. They are fake and providing the fake agenda and providing the fake news. So collectively, all this it's a very dangerous phenomena. Sometimes we understand that there are allegations on the Europe, especially Britishers as well, that you on the first place could not handle the Hitler, and you were involved in the treaties, and you are trying to make him understand the humanitarian solutions, whatever he was doing on the initial phase in the Germany towards to complete its Nazi agenda. So why didn't on the first place they stopped Hitler? Similarly, it's again, I'm saying it again, it's a Nazism, it's a hyper-nationalism that is not only dangerous for the whole region, rather for the whole world. So the world should understand that instead of condemning it, you should stop it in the first place. So this is important. Human rights organizations are there, United Nations is there, Security Council, we are where the Pakistan is the president of it right now, and we should raise the concern over there. And then FATF and the other monetary agencies, those who are looking into all the trails and the monetary funding of the different organizations, this is important to provide the data and the dossier to them and ask them, okay, what should be the solution? Although the things are different, on the other hand, I mean, obviously India is a growing economic hub, and the states are looking into their own economic agendas. But right now, India's credibility is fragile. We have seen how fragile his the image for its own allies as well. They are not buying his agenda or its narrative.
I mean, that is why as Farhan Bokhari Sahab said, India is kind of put in a corner. So is Narendra Modi. He doesn't know with his spectacles that do not see on what is happening on the sides. This is a myopic view that him and his cronies unfortunately have, and this is leading the country into disarray and a possible implosion in the coming months and years. Farhan Sahab, I'd like to understand, Yashwant Shinde also claims that riots and terror incidents, let's give an example, Ayodhya, Babri Mosque incident, then the Kashmir issue, Indian legally occupied Jammu and Kashmir, that has been going on to this date. These incidents in these areas have been timed to maximize electoral gains. The first thing that comes to your mind is the Pahalgam false flag operation and the elections in Bihar. And if you go back, in Chhattisgarh, Uri, and so on and so forth, there's always a connection to some kind of electoral gains. Will the BJP, the RSS continue with these machinations to get political gains? Will the people in India never put two and two together and understand the reality of what they stand for?
That's a very timely question, and I'm very interested in finding out if, as we proceed down the line, in the not too distant future, is it that now we're witnessing the unraveling, or at least the beginning of the unraveling of what Narendra Modi represents? Let's not forget, even before he became the Prime Minister, he had a nickname, Butcher of Gujarat.
Yes. And he was not allowed to enter the US. It was only once he became PM that he could enter the US.
And people who spoke in his favor talked about India as a big market and so on and so forth, and the strategic gains and that the United States and other Western countries would gain from closer relationship to this country. At times, people have even talked about India being a future member of the Security Council of the United Nations. Whether that happens or not is another story, but at least this idea has been talked about by some. So it's not, what we are looking at is not new. It's, I think, the convergence of factors internal to India and external to India as well, that have worked against Narendra Modi and what he represents, to the extent that now we're seeing possibly the unraveling. Now, sometimes these things are very hard to exactly predict, exactly what would happen 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line, impossible to predict, but it has happened. The Shinde statement, there are two ways of looking at it. One way is that this is someone who, for whatever reason, is angry with the party and therefore is coming out publicly. On the other hand, maybe he represents a current or a wave which is emerging from within, and he has come out publicly. This is a manifestation of that.
I'd rather say within India than within the RSS, because I don't think the RSS has ever changed its mindset, nor has the Bajrang Dal, nor has the VHP and all the other branches.
Sure. So is it a kind of a broader, wider sort of trend?
Maybe, maybe.
This is what I'm interested in finding out, and I don't have an answer yet.
Okay.
But I think the timing is fascinating, and it's interesting because
it is very interesting. Agreed.
So many things which are kind of converging. The downturn in relations with the United States, the outcome of the 7th to 10th May encounter with Pakistan, and the subsequent questions being raised internationally by over matters like the capability of Indian fighter pilots. This revelation that we are discussing today, and last but not the least, it's very evident to many people that, as I said earlier on, Narendra Modi is in a corner and doesn't really, on the face of it, doesn't really know how to come out of it.
Well, let's see when and how he comes out of it, and whether he will come out a better man or a man more on the path of destruction as he has
Well, better
been.
I doubt, but one should always live in the hope.
Let's see. Jamil Saab, last question as far as this segment is concerned. I'd like to understand Shinde's the different facts that he alleges that, for example, the Hindu-Muslim riots, the attacks in Pakistan, and the Kashmir militancy have been deliberately engineered to consolidate the BJP's rise to power. To add to that, all the data that you yourself have said that Pakistan has presented to the United Nations, and the complicity of the Indian security agencies and the media in downplaying or covering up these RSS related activities. Looking at all these allegations, don't you feel the RSS and its affiliates could be classified internationally as extremist organizations, and is there a precedent that could be held as far as such a move is concerned, or will this be a first if ever it happens?
Well, the world community has to really push it across, because in the nation's foreign policy, normally it's basically their interest, mutual interest, and that also sometimes it so happens that the violation of international laws are even ignored, which could be a bigger violation of international law than what has been documented in the Human Rights Commissioner in his very volumetric report, not one but two reports, and then Amnesty International, and then the Secretary General's report. So all those reports contain what is required now, that India, now that it has been exposed, and exposed particularly post May war, what they had with Pakistan, and they saw what was the result of it, 7th to 10th of May. So now it's quite a ground, a favorable ground for the world to really push their point of whatever violation India has been making, and then rely, as I was saying, that we should rely on the international documented evidence. What you are mentioning about Kashmir, it has been documented. What we are mentioning here, that all these organizations, whether it's a Bajrang, whether it's a this Vishwa Singh, or any other organization for that matter, they are all linked with the political party, that is the BJP, which was in fact formed once they realized, the RSS realized that they have now gained their strength. So what they started doing was, we can recall what happened Babi Masjid time in 80s, and they exploited that in their election, BJP election, Lok Sabha in 1989. They fully encashed it, and they made it as a national launch pad. And from there, they started having the same practice and the same strategy that create a kind of hatred among the other nations, and then thrive on the vote bank of their own huge population. And that's what they've been doing, and that's how they came into power so many times. But now that their own opposition is exposing that quite well, this is the time that the international community could also really, like Pakistan is raising its point, and it should, to its advocacy, the way the momentum is maintained at the leadership level. So this would automatically find its way. By the way, in the Religious Commission Committee, we also have Asif Mahmood, and he has made a very strong, he's one of the commissioners of that US committee. And he had made a very strong, and there are other members, there are a couple of commissioners in
I
that.
agree with that, but Jamil Sahab, let's see where it all leads to. The facts are there, the revelations are there, the proofs are there, the reports are there. Let's see whether there will be action in it. You know, it all depends on how you translate all of that which is present in form of paper.
Well, it all depends on the way we are going to present our case in the Security Council, because so far it's Chapter 6 which has been invoked for Kashmir and other purposes against India. Now Pakistan should move the resolution under Chapter 7, and matter would definitely be decided. This is the right time. I think subsequently we are going to do that, and we have all those documented.
All right, point taken. Our next story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the Gaza genocide, 674. The main story that everybody is talking about today is the killing of the 5 journalists, including one very, very famous journalist from Al Jazeera, who was just 28 years of age and was killed deliberately because he was portraying or highlighting the truth of what was happening within Gaza. This and more is going to be discussed. Also, the fact that many countries are now moving in favor of Palestine and recognizing it as a state starting from next month, and France and now Australia are also in this lineup. I will ask my first question to Dr. Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti. Dr. Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti, let's talk about these 5 journalists that were killed. A missile hits a tent that was used by journalists near the Al-Shifa hospital, and 7 people are killed, including 5 journalists. Anas Al-Sharif is a 28-year-old journalist who was made extremely famous by the way he was reporting about what was happening, and there has been global outpour of anger, of frustration after the death of this. And this is not the first journalist. 200 plus journalists have been killed so far since the 7th of October 2023. There are so many reports that have come out, but what I'd like to understand is, in all of this, whether it be aid workers, whether it be journalists, whether it be men, women, children, isn't there a total disregard for life and a halting of all the pursuit for truth since the 7th of October 2023?
You are absolutely correct, and this is really devastating. I mean, including all these 5 recent killing of the journalists, it makes 186 journalists in total that has been recorded, and it is more than the killing of the journalist in during the World War II. So this count is this much high, and it shows that how the Netanyahu, what type of credibility he is giving to the international humanitarian law. Although the journalists, they have got full support from Geneva Conventions, the maximum security and all type of peace and security. They have been the states are in they are indulged in the conflict. They are bound to provide those security to them. The journalists are, according to the Protocol 1, Article 79, the journalists are not considered as a collateral damage in the conflict zone areas. So it shows, and plus that 60,000 plus the innocent Palestinians, and
61,000 plus,
and more than half of them are the children. So this is something shows that how brutal the Netanyahu policies are and what type of vicious agenda he is carrying. And sometimes I wonder that the Trump, I wish he had put all the efforts, even 1/3 of the effort that he is putting to the Putin to stop the war in the Ukraine on the Netanyahu. So this would have been happened, the ceasefire would have been there, but I think that Trump is not interested in that. Okay, the European states, they are condemning it, and they are, the 70% of the whole population, it makes 149 states in total, and they are recognizing Palestine as a state, and they are asking them to go to the pre-war status quo. But still, it says that America is not ready for that. So without the consent of the America, where do the world stand?
That is true. Where does the
Yes.
world stand when it comes to that? As Dr. Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti said, more than 147 of the United Nations 193 member states have already recognized Palestine, representing some 75% of the bodies. You know, Portugal is also going to consider whether to recognize the state as well. Australia has said it's going to recognize. France has said it's going to recognize. The United Kingdom has said it's going to recognize. And recently in the United Nations Security Council, all but the US were in favor of Palestine. Only the US was against it. And there is a clear demarcation within the world of what now the world wants, and that is peace in Palestine. How and when will this genocide end?
You look back at the record of this conflict, the latest phase since October 2023, there are a few very sorry trends that are very clear. Number one, rule of law in the international space. You can throw it out of the window.
Just look at what happened with the ICJ and the ICC.
Exactly. Morality, zero value. And dangerous of all, might is right has been reasserted here as a principle. So at the end of the day, what are you going to get? You're going to get inflammation of this conflict continuing for the foreseeable future, more innocent casualties, unending. And Netanyahu, who, by the way, internally within Israel also faces some challenges.
Yes, political challenges in particular.
Political challenges. He recently threw out his attorney general because this is someone who's a very credible, respected lawyer in Israel who was relentlessly pursuing charges of corruption against Netanyahu, and ultimately he and his cabinet threw her out. So overall, the picture is not promising at all in the least bit. In fact, it's looking quite bleak as we speak. And
but I mean, what I want to understand is, will the world stand together on one side, on one end of the spectrum, and support Palestine? Will that happen? Can that happen?
I think the writing in the wall is very clear, unless the United States sees the light of the day.
Okay.
And makes a complete turnaround by 180 degrees.
All right.
And you know,
All
takes
right.
a different direction.
All right. Speaking of the US, the US President Jamil Saab had a recent conversation with Netanyahu regarding Israel's new Gaza offensive plans, you know, and that is very apparent. And this is the talk of the global media since the last couple of days. This plan to take control of Gaza City under Netanyahu's new war strategy, doesn't it violate international law and the Palestinian right to self-determination?
Well, it violates the international law the way it has been violating, Israel has been violating in past. There are more than a dozen of the Security Council resolution. More importantly, 1967 resolution in which Israel was clearly asked that they should vacate all the occupied land. Instead of vacating, they are further occupying those lands, and they are I think fulfilling the agenda which was decided in 1897 once the Zionism was raised in Switzerland. And from there onward, whatever they decided of creating a country, and they have done that, and they have capturing more land, they have done it. So far as Gaza is concerned at this point, they are very clear, in fact, and they are just nearing their aim and objective. I think it's just a matter of days, if not weeks, that they would be able to occupy the whole Gaza, and they have all lined up for giving them a final blow. The only opposition why Netanyahu has it in his own country is that the life of remaining 20 hostages, and it appears that Netanyahu has now made up his mind that to sacrifice those 20 lives, and then the game seems to be over for now, at least. Otherwise, you know, it will go. Of course, it's going to go underground now. The entire movement, whether it's Hamas or whether it's other movements, because as you mentioned, that the entire world and the people those who have some value still left for the humanity and human rights. They all are on the roads, the Western country and the Eastern country, OIC country, most of them, they cannot really have the demonstration because of obvious reasons, because of the authoritarian regime, they don't allow them. But even we are talking about 147 countries, they have already recognized, and a dozen more they are going to recognize, to me, legally.
That is true. The fact is that, maybe change is coming, maybe change is in the offing, but that we can only wait and see as the world decides, as the world takes sides, and as the world moves towards maybe some kind of a ceasefire, and then maybe some kind of end to this genocide and crimes against humanity. Another area that is extremely troublesome is also Russia-Ukraine conflict that has been going on since now. Now, what is happening is that the meeting of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin is going to happen this Friday in Alaska, and the fact that for the moment Zelensky is not part of this meeting is also a point of concern for the entire European Union and for Zelensky himself, who is putting pressure on that. My first question again comes to you, Sir Jamil Saab, if you are still with us.
Yes.
Will the EU states and Zelensky finally be able to convince the US to have Zelensky as part of this meeting on Friday?
We have to really go back to what statements Donald Trump has been making right from the very beginning, and even during his election campaign. He wanted to really finish this and bring this issue to its end, peace in the area, and at what cost. We've been discussing it at multiple occasions, multiple channels, including your channel, that the war would be decided on the terms and conditions of Russia. And Russia has already captured a substantial area of Ukraine, and they want to just continue with that, the northern side of the. So that probably appears to be happening very soon. And this 15th August meeting in Alaska, that would give us a right direction or perhaps some decisions. So far as Zelensky is concerned, or Zelensky and the European Union, I think ultimately they will see to what the United States would finally.
Short a little bit because we're short of time, Jamil Saab. Next two questions, I'd like short answers to that. Gul-i-Ayesha, Bhatti, Moscow has preconditions to any future of talks with Ukraine. Ukrainian neutrality, withdrawal from contested regions, and no NATO membership. Will Kiev accept?
Oh, it's something you cannot predict, but we have to understand one thing, that the Mr. Putin and the Trump, they are meeting in Alaska and they are talking about the swap up territories and all that. But there is again some understanding behind it. There is some ideology. There is some concerns from the Russia. Mr. Putin time and again he talked about broken promises, eastward NATO expansion that is against their understanding post Cold War. So he is concerned about eastward NATO expansion. He is not concerned about swap of territory.
Last question from you, Farhan Bokhari Saab. NATO's Secretary General Mark Rutte talks about a balance between acknowledging Russia's current control of parts of Ukraine and ensuring a just and lasting peace. How do you see this position as well? Short answer.
Well, that's a diplomatic statement, nice one, but I think the actual practicalities of the situation will be decided behind the scenes. I, for one, do not believe that Ukraine's inclusion in NATO will be accepted by Russia, or its inclusion in NATO can be part
that is a
of
precondition.
Final settlement. I don't think that will happen, and I don't think also, given how weakened Ukraine has been, how much it's become weaker, I don't think Ukraine or Zelensky are in position.
All right, let's see, but the EU are backing them for the moment. Thank you very much, Dr. Gul-i-Ayesha Bhatti. Thank you very much, Farhan Ali Bokhari Saab, and thank you very much, Jamil Ahmed Khan Saab, to have joined us as far as this show is concerned. Last two stories very quickly. The IAEA deputy head is in Tehran as we speak, and this is the first visit by a high-ranking official of the IAEA post the suspension of the relationship, let's put it that way, the cooperation between the IAEA and Iran, whether it leads to any tangent, step forward as far as their relationship is concerned, or the JCPOA is concerned, is something that we will look forward to in the coming days through the different statements. Finally, a 6.1 magnitude earthquake hit the western parts of Turkey. Only there was one casualty, an 81-year-old person who died after being rescued from the rubble. Otherwise, there were people who were injured. Nevertheless, the incident was extremely devastating because it was a 6.1 magnitude earthquake, and people were extremely terrified on the afterjolts that also happened. From our side, there have been many statements, including that by our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab, to condemn all that has happened, and of course to give his remarks as far as all the devastation that has happened because of this. Where the people of Turkey, the country itself, has been a very brotherly and important country for us, and will continue to support it in whichever means we can. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with story segments that pertain to us. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.